and parents because of the hardship these days in the world.
And sometimes the perpetrator will even go round to the victims' friends and families and try to let them know that there's something wrong with the victim, that these kind of things never happened.
Our culture, the way we have been trained to believe that women are this. So we grow up, every boy or young man grows up thinking that his wife is inferior.
A
man who has the guts to defile his own son, his own daughter, has any love for that child, that you should even want that child close to that man.
Ayana in some honwa obini no kunya asem kwa ya anadwo wo ha na obi adwane atoa no obo oprum ebi kura wo ba wase obi di machi winim se sekan kura na di nachi se de no wode ba winim eno ekobasa no fact ana ha ya adwen kakra.
We know that you have the generation gap. The early days, you thought marriage was so essential that if you delay even the marriage of your daughter may not get children at all. That's what they believed, that your daughter may not get children at all. And children was our greatest asset because we are farming communities. So that sort of belief is entrenched in our parents.
When the society say, you know, if you jail a man for raping his wife, for defiling his child, who will take care of those people? And I ask myself, those men who steal, who kill, and they are jailed, do we always ask who takes care of their family members?
You are just a property to the man, so he does whatever he wants with you.
Amania ye hunu wo awaremu kana ma de ye wateti ankasa wo awaremu emema no oware wa osusu se wato osusu se die ope enesese woye nenso nka entesa esese obema no hu se woso woyi onyankopon abode onyankopon na abowo enti wososo wo wahofadie esese oma wo hoto esese be ma bo akonhoma esese be ma tue school fees ohwe ne ba esese be ma hwe fie ohwe ne ba awawo no so wawo no nko ade obekasa a kire eba ne ba no so abu ni maame woni edi oni ma na yakwa wawie beduane tumaduane breme
me mekwa awori mu ache kakra na mre amekwa awori first no sane ame kunu yimetina ahyese no na ye fine pa ye kodu mfimfini bi na afide onpema no kasa kra na watie se menye ne yemepe na osem nkoyi ngu mese me mpena waburu me saa
ene sebe ye boye nkwada no ho ban oba bia so nka ewose ansa na wo bekwa aware no kra na nka wukunu nko na sebe nka wahu wo enso sede na wo kopa adwuma gise boss no ana manager no say shia me ha se wanfa wo ho anfa mba wo so adwuma na memfa wo no em se enye adwene papa a ebeboa oman no mpuntu.
Now we know that it is not the victim who actually calls for it, because irrespective of how you conduct yourself, by the mere fact that you are a woman, you are confronted with certain types of violent behavior from your male counterparts at different levels. And therefore, the importance of that awareness having been created cannot be underestimated.
The Attorney General's department in Kumasi is seriously understaffed. As we speak, to the best of my knowledge, there is only the Chief State Attorney and a senior state attorney, and then one other national service person.
When a girl is born into the family, the girl has no right even in her father's house because she is a girl. That is because as soon as a female child is born, she is already seen as
the property of another family or another community.
Yo kanyimu agba kwemio ejino kone ebahisi mawe pionge Ghana ne ejinge bino ne nyimu aye ke ha ayi ke bene apno ke ho yo mepo ke yo pawo mi basa na ke yo ma mi klim la wo le mo yo ne na ngemo gbeja ne o madeke epinoko wa hu epale gbemo oke epinoko mlano o heli o hesipe. There
is a lot of teenage pregnancies going on. There is a lot of prostitution going on in our streets because children cannot stay in their homes. There is a lot of armed robbery. We find our streets choked with children. They grow up to be drug addicts. They grow up to be armed robbers. These are the very children who do not find peace in their homes.
Etimi ma enkwala na setena no awaja ma no timi tena ye papa ne ye ma menchen emma nkwala ne nkodi pa kone na mbasa so be costo bi anim ne nkwala ne dededa basa.
Most of it manifests in the area of the marital relations. Women are less reluctant to seek help when the perpetrator of violence against them is the husband or a father, somebody within the family setting.
It's difficult getting evidence because you need data. Then with family, hardly a woman will come up to an organization, however friendly, to say that my husband has abused me sexually or in some other way. It's only when they are really hard hit, when they are almost at the point of collapse or death or the collapse of the marriage or relationship.
Number one problem is a lot of the women come too late because there is a window of opportunity during which you have to collect evidence, sometimes because they are not aware, so there has to be more awareness in the public for women to appreciate why they need to come at a certain point.
We've had some cases where the victims come, but when you advise them to take the matter to court, they don't come back again, and it's a bit saddening for us. We've even had some cases where the victims have won their day in court, and when it comes to actually collecting compensation or enforcing the judgment of the court, the victim says no.
Some women are really suffering. They come to you, you talk to them, you give them the various options, for example, whether to stay in the abusive relationship and end their lives, or to get out of the relationship and have a better life. But you realize that at some point in time, the woman refuses all these options and one becomes helpless because you can't decide for this woman, yet you know she's suffering. In other cases, you realize that this woman is really economically hard up, but then you're at your limit.
Very little. There's so many people who need services and multi-faceted services. We are not just talking about legal services. We are talking about medical services. We are talking about services with childcare. We are talking about skills training and economic empowerment services. However, that NGOs are doing quite well. There are a number of women's advocacy groups that are providing services for victims, groups that are doing a lot of education and sensitization on legal literacy, on the women, the rights not to be violated, and so on and so forth. However, when it comes to implementation of policy and enforcement of law, that is where we find that Ghana is really, really lacking. If you look at our international obligations under the Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women, particularly under General Recommendation 19 of the UN Assembly, if you look at our obligation under the Declaration on Elimination of All Forms of Violence Against Women, and you look at our commitment under the Beijing Platform for Action, and our own constitutional commitments, there doesn't seem to have been enough done about the situation of women, particularly when it comes to gender violence or violence against women. We still have a country in which 1 out of 3 adult women have suffered violence, physical violence, at the hands of an intimate partner.
Whether you are rich, whether you are poor, whether you are vulnerable, whether you have